Okay, thank you. Thanks for putting the cover chart up there. There's a number of things that either Sarah or Noble will talk about later or has already talked about related to certain calls, which I won't duplicate and go through in my presentation. So you might have to listen to Sarah's and mine to see if we've answered some of the questions. If you go to the next chart, please. I'll give you an update. You know, we had 2 more CLIPS launch and landing attempts in January and February this year, leading into landing attempts in March. That means we had 4 attempts in about 15 months. Now the CLIPS has started to fly. You know that IM-2 did not have a fully successful landing. It launched February 26th. It had a touchdown on March 6th. Almost immediately after touching down, data that IM received indicated that the Athena lander had landed on its side in the general Mons Bouton region. They turned on and operated at NASA's request some of the payloads, particularly the NASA payloads, the Trident drill and the MSOLO mass spec, to show that those instruments could come on, that they were surviving the environment, that they could translate and operate. There were some other NASA supported or partially supported payloads. There were also on that mission, such as the Hopper and the Nokia 3GPP comm demonstrator, that unfortunately weren't able to egress because the lander was on its side, so they weren't able to complete their objectives. And because the lander was laying on its side in a crater in shadow, it was quite cold, and Intuitive Machines decided that since they had good communications, they wanted to pull the data they could out of the lander as quickly as possible, you know, use their power to make sure their comm link was good. And they called an end to the mission at about 12:15 a.m., I think Central Time, on March 7th. So it was less than 24 hours for their mission duration. You go to the next chart, please. You can see some images from the mission. Their spacecraft coming in to lunar orbit to the Mons Bouton region. You can see on the left an image of their lander on its side in a dark area, in a crater, where you can see the Earth low in the horizon in the background, and so the sunlit terrain behind it. Well, I will tell you that the Intuitive Machines 2 mission had a lot of changes to it compared to Intuitive Machines 1. They had an extremely smooth mission from flight all the way up translunar into lunar orbit, much smoother than the IM-1 mission. They really drilled down into what the issues were they had during IM-1. You'll remember the IM-1 mission did not land with any laser altimetry, so it couldn't understand what its altitude was. It landed on its side. That was due to, as Intuitive Machines recounts in the media, the laser altimeters not being correctly wired up so that they could use their wiring harness to do a hard, boot on. You can't boot them on just using software. You actually have to have the electrical connection to turn on the laser rangefinders. They corrected that for IM-2. However, when they turned on their laser rangefinders, they realized that they had other problems with the laser rangefinders. They were seemingly giving back data that didn't look believable or clean. One of the rangefinders appeared to be going on and off. IM discussed all of this, I think, in the league annual meeting presentation, or maybe not that, the LPSC that was earlier this spring. They gave a side discussion of this, and they're currently going through a mission reconstruction and investigation of this with some NASA technical experts that we've assigned to give them information and observations. And based on that, Intuitive Machines will end up making a proposal to NASA for any changes that should be done before their IM-3 mission that is currently scheduled to be done in 2026. Go to the next chart, please, Amanda. Glucose Mission 1, conducted by Firefly, did complete its 14 Earth Day surface mission at the Sea of Crises. The 10 investigations sponsored by NASA acquired a lot of data, whether that was in their scientific investigations or techniques or technologies, in some cases operations. This image shows an image that the lander took after touchdown with the Earth above the horizon, the sun behind it, the sun illuminating the lander to give this nice shadow image. And in addition to getting the data for the investigations, This also is an existence proof that it's possible for this CLIPS concept and model to definitely work. Now we wanted to exercise it with the lessons learned that we have from Firefly and others to improve its repeatability and its reliability. Maria Banks, who is NASA project scientist for Blue Ghost Mission 1 NASA investigations and payloads, I think we'll give more information about this later on in the workshop agenda today. Go to the next chart, please, Amanda. One of my favorite images out of Blue Ghost Mission 1 was the first image they took looking sunward after touchdown during lunar dawn at the Sea of Crises. Go to the next chart, please. If you can see the back and forth flipping of the GIF here, you can see a before image from 2021 of the Sea of Crises at pretty well the center of the square where the region Blue Ghost touched down. When you see it flip to the March 2025 image, you can see a bright spot, which is the reflection of the sun from the east here, illuminating Blue Ghost, and then the shadow, the elongated shadow across the touchdown region that's shown in dark in the March image. Go to the next chart, please. This is the final image taken from Blue Ghost right as the sun was setting below the other horizon. They did get operations not only through the eclipse that took place while they were on the moon, but also several hours after the sun went down on the horizon. And several payloads took data for a relatively long period of time. And these extra goals we gave them to exercise some level of night operations they did achieve. Go to the next chart, please. This is a updated depiction of the CLIPS deliveries that have either took place in 2024 and are starting in 2025, or the ones that we have scheduled through 2029, either because we've selected the payload complements, but we haven't yet completed the actual landing mission that will take them to the moon, or ones where we've actually completed the landing mission. You can see here that Astrobotics Peregrine Mission 1 is listed as did not land. Intuitive Machines, 2 missions are listed as landed but on side. And Firefly's first mission is listed as a nominal landing. This has not been changed greatly to things that the community has seen in the past, other than in some cases we have selected the vendors that will provide the landings for the CP22 set of investigations that will go to the South Pole, and then also the CP21 investigation that'll go up to the grid highs and domes in the upper left. And you can also see in dark blue the ones that we're about to compete, 2 of which will be going to the South Pole, called CS6 and CT4, and one that will carry the dimple investigation to a regular Mare patch INA on the CP32 mission. If you go to the next chart, please, Amanda. Again, Sarah, I think, will say a few things about Artemis human landing systems science solicitations, which are ongoing. But I want to point out that we have received the proposals for the PRISM standalone landing site agnostic call, and we're currently having panels review those. We are working to finalize the schedule and the scope for the PRISM 4 call. We have a number of other engagement opportunities for the communities besides applying for competitive funding of teams or instruments, whether that's for PRISM on CLIPS or for Artemis human landing systems. One are these lunar surface science workshops. I will point out, even though this is a lunar workshop, that the Mars Exploration Program has started a complementary series of Mars surface science workshops. And there's a number of community-led studies that NASA has commissioned, such as the Science Definition Team for South Pole Aitken Basin sample return and exploration mission concept SPARCS, which is the more generic term for the Endurance South Pole Aitken Basin mission that was recommended in Origins of Worlds and Life. And then also 2 National Academy studies, one going on with science that will be done by humans on Mars and the first human visits to Mars, and then also science that we've done at the moon at non-polar landing locations on the lunar surface. When I mentioned IM2, I did not talk about a Lunar Trailblazer, which was a rideshare investigation that went up on the same rocket that took IM-2 to the moon. Again, that launch was February 26th for IM-2. We lost contact comm with Lunar Trailblazer about a day later on February 27th. Spacecraft recovery efforts have been ongoing since that time. We're focusing on working to reestablish communications, telemetry, and commanding to understand the health of the spacecraft. We can see it, using radar. We know where it is. We know that there haven't been any trajectory connection maneuvers or any lunar insertion as of May 7th, and we're looking at opportunities from mid-May to mid-June, as NASA has publicly announced, to try to see if we can get control and reboot the spacecraft, and then determine could we return it to cislunar space in the future. I do want to comment on the forward plan for the Viper partnership. There's a couple of questions in the IO tool. If you look at the second one from the top, this morning, NASA announced that Viper won't enter into the existing partnership called the Application for Partnership Proposals that we had posted earlier this year. But we are considering alternative partnerships. These are different ways to structure partnership proposals based on what we learned from reviewing the step one proposals that were submitted by industry. So we are looking at different types of partnerships that are structured differently than what we have originally envisioned to try to generate stronger proposals to do such a partnership. And we are not ready today to comment on the details of that or the timing of that, but NASA is working it, and once we are ready to share it, we will share it with the community. I also want to point out here that LRO, of course, remains healthy, more than 15 years in its ops life, providing valuable data for the scientific investigations from its instruments and also for exploration. And KPLO ShadowCam is working extremely well on the KPL Denori mission, generating quite a number of high quality, interesting images of shadowed areas in the polar region. I think that may be my last chart, Sarah, but if you could flip to the next one. Oh, I have one more here. I wanted to highlight that the work that the South Pole Aitken Basin Sample Return and Exploration STT has done in the 3 meetings that they've worked so far. You'll get an outbrief, I think, from the chair later on at this workshop, but the SPA STD is hard at work doing analysis to bring the findings of their analysis to NASA as we continue to form and refine the concept for South Pole Aitken Basin Sample Return and Exploration mission for the future in response to Origins World of Life major mission recommendation for lunar discovery and exploration. In the IO, I also want to I'll point out that that we are continuing to do the Artemis 4 deployed instruments call. We're proceeding with that. We're paneling the proposals that have been received. Let's see. We don't have anything more to share today about the scope or the timing of the call for Artemis handheld instruments. To answer the question about, other than the Blue Ghost 1 mission, how many science objectives have been met by the CLPS missions over its 7-year lifetime, I would say over the last, 14 or 15 months of operation. Most of the objectives have been met were the ones on the Blue Ghost mission, but I would certainly some minor checkout objectives were met either in transit, on the surface, and in some cases, some objectives were met during transit on particularly, I think, on the IM-1 and the IM-2 missions, but we'll have to go out and get an answer for that specific question that we've checked. There's a question here, are there currently any optical tracking of Lunar Trailblazer? I don't know the answer to that. I know there's been radar tracking. And the question is, are you able to provide a community announcement for Viper 4 Prism 4 to communicate likely change in scope compared to Prism 3? We will do that with a draft announcement that we will post before the final announcement comes out so we can get community comments. And I'm not going to comment on the general timeline today at LSSW. Kelsey, are there any other comments in the IO tool that you think I should address? Oh, I can't comment on the senior review results on LRO extended science mission because NASA has only recently received them and we're evaluating them.
Thank you, Joel. No, I was anticipating asking those questions during the Q&A session, but you made
Sorry
that
about that.
a lot easier. No, it's your prerogative to answer those questions. So I appreciate that. No other questions right now for you to answer, but please stick around for the Q&A just
I'll
in case.
stay.
If you can. Thank you.
I will.